What's up, everyone? In this video today, I want to share 7 tips with you to run a killer workshop. Whether it's a product discovery workshop, an objectives and key results goal setting workshop, or a strategy workshop, or any other sort of workshop, I want to help you absolutely crush it. Now, I've run thousands of these over the years, and I've made every mistake in the book, and I think I've got it down to a pretty fine art. So these 7 tips are going to help take you to the next level. Tips 6 and 7 are my absolute favorite, so hang around to those at the end where I'll run you through the gold that makes you close strong. First, tip number 1, it's actually not part of the workshop, it's preparation for it. Now, you know you need to do your own preparation. I don't think I need to tell you that, but you want to send pre-workout. Get people thinking about what they need to be either researching, reviewing, coming up with any sort of action items as part of it, so they come in strong and ready to hit the ground running. That's number 1, and I like to get that out with at least 7 days notice, particularly when you're dealing with busy executive teams. They're not going to have time to check this stuff out. Bonus if you send a reminder before the workshop to make sure they're on top of it. Number 2, now this is really important, is you want to kick off strong. There's a theory called primary recency bias, and it's something that's used a lot in education because we know that people remember a lot from an experience at the beginning and a lot from the end, but often the parts in the middle people forget. And so if you're running a lesson, you want to make sure that the key pieces of information are at the start and at the finish. But for your workshop, people are going to remember how great it is based on the start and the finish. So think about how you structure your workshop to make it strong. So let's focus on that opening part to make it really strong. First, I like to get expectations from everyone for the day. So in the lead up to this session, I've probably had interviews one-on-one with people who are attending the workshop. But in the day, I want to make sure that we're all clear on what we're here to achieve. And sometimes people like to put up a bit of a list of stuff that they're expecting or planning on doing. I like to have an agenda, but to be honest, I like to go and create a new list. What's everyone expecting from this workshop today? And I can either decide in that moment, are we going to be closing that off and actually helping achieve that expectation? Or do I need to reset that expectation and say, actually, we're not going to cover that today? So kick off really strong. I also like to get photos at the start of a session. Now, this might be before people turn up if you don't have time. Otherwise, you can do it with everyone there. Great to get a selfie as well while people are in high energy in the start of the day. This photo is going to come in real handy later on in the workshop. If you're on a Zoom call, you can do the same thing. Just do a group screenshot. That's also really cool. Number 3 is one of my most favorite techniques. Now, through the day, you're going to have a bunch of activities. The most important thing is you get everyone in the room talking. A big part of that is making sure there's an equal share of voice, but there's a facilitation technique I want to share with you that I use in pretty much every single workshop I run. It's called Think, Pair, Share. It's a really dead simple format, and it's something that allows you to have a lot of freedom whilst also putting some nice natural constraints in. Think, you give people a few minutes to think on their own. You might put out a challenge. You might say to them, what is the most important strategic challenge for us to focus on this year? Or what's the biggest customer problem we need to focus on right now? Give them 2 to 3 minutes to reflect on that. Have a think about what that is. Everyone must do it in silence. I promise you people are going to start talking. You need to shut that down. Everyone needs to stay quiet and let's think through an answer. This means we're going to get into some deeper thoughts, not ages, but it's enough to go a little bit deeper than what we otherwise would. Then we want to pair. This is where we get into pairs and have a bit of a group-based discussion to talk about, okay, what does that mean? And do we have shared ideas? Do we have different ideas? And off the back of that, you're going to have a really rich conversation. Now, sometimes if you're trying to come up with a single idea out of a whole group rather than just have a really good conversation, you might actually ask that pair to come up with whichever answer they think is the best between the two of them. Then we get the groups to share, and this is where we share in the entire room. Each pair shares with the entire room and says, right, this is what we discussed. These were what our key insights were. Now, that little golden nugget there is how we start to get alignment across the room. Now, if you have a really large group, I've done this up to probably groups of a few hundred people, then what you want to do is maybe rather than sharing with the whole room, they're going to share with a larger group. So you might go from a individual, that thing, going into the pairs, then going to the sharing. Maybe you're sharing with a group of 5 or 6, and then from there you could even then get 2 groups at 5 or 6 to share in a group of 12. And you keep stepping it up one level at a time. So that is a really nice way to scale and have equal share of voice, lots of engagement, and lots of discussion. Tip number 4 is have an equal share of voice. Now, that's really important because you want to be having everyone in the room talking. So that think, pair, share technique I just talked about, that's going to help you get that equal share of voice. But through the whole day, you've got to make sure that everyone is contributing and talking. Now, be respectful. Some people don't like talking in large groups, so you want to be able to sit down with that person and have one-on-one conversations to find out why they're not talking, but sit down with them and try and bubble up some of their ideas. If you feel like it's really important for them to share an idea or something that they've said, then ask for their permission. Ask them, can I get you to say this in front of the whole group? Are you comfortable saying this in front of the whole group? And if they say no, that's totally cool. Say, can I say it on your behalf? Make sure that you're getting everyone talking and being part of that interactive activity. Now that we've got that equal share of voice, it's really important to get regular energy checks in the room. Now, if this is virtual versus in person, it's going to look very differently, but the same concepts apply. What I like to do is do a bit of an energy check. How is the pace for everyone? That's a nice general term that makes sure people are feeling like we're moving in the right direction. There's enough momentum. We're talking about the right things. So I ask a question. Are we on pace? Give us a thumbs up if yes, it's looking pretty good, or off to the side, or thumbs down if you're not happy. And if anyone has a thumbs to the side or thumbs down, just ask them, hey, how do you think we can do a little bit better? What do you think we're missing? How can we speed it up a little bit? Ask them those questions and they'll have a really good discussion. And to be honest, if one person's feeling it, probably the broader group is. This is putting them a little bit back in control so that you can redirect that energy to really push it in the right direction. Another one I like to do is regular check-ins on what's been most insightful or useful so far. This is an easy thing to do whether you're in a room or whether you're getting people to drop that down into the comments on a Zoom chat. That is a great way just to keep that engagement. Make sure you're having those regular conversations throughout the day. Now, this is one that scares a lot of people, but I said there was two big ones at the end I wanted to share with you. This is the first, the next one's coming. This for a lot of people is hard, but I want to tell you it is one of the most impactful things you can do. Be a storyteller. You don't need to be a great storyteller. You know, one of the first times that I found out that this is such an important skill was when I was working on a mobile app project. It was pretty dry and pretty boring. It was for a bank. But the executive in the group, he came in and talked about his experience when he lost his father as a child. He died to a disease and that left the family without any income. He's a little bit older, so it was that era where his mother wasn't working and they were basically looking at financial destitution. They were going to be losing everything. They were looking at losing the house. Dad wasn't a great communicator. And what came through in the end was once the bank realized and was notified of the death, they told the family that he had a life insurance policy. And that is the thing that got the family through that period and eventually got this executive into university and these sort of things so that he now has the job that he has today. And this was such a powerful, impactful moment to me. It wasn't using any particularly complex or advanced storytelling method. He just told a story that was relevant to him and the impact it had on him. And that has now taught me how important it is to include story. So my tips for you, there's loads of different videos on this. In fact, I'll leave a good video on this in the comments that you can check out. But the simple version is use a story that is relevant to you, that is based on your personal experience that had an impact on you, and use that to convey a message. Now, look, at this point, you should have had an incredible workshop. You've had lots of engagement, good share of voice. You've had lots of activities that got people bubbling up ideas, but now you've got to close it strong. I talked about this at the start. Kick it off strong, close it off strong. And I told you, get a picture at the start that you can use. Well, here's how you're going to use it. You're going to wrap up on the session by simply making sure that you've summarized all the key decisions and actions. Let's do a bit of a recap on the day, right? What are the key things that we've decided? What are we going to do afterwards? That is quite an administrative type thing. Make sure that every action has an owner. Someone's going to do it. But then, this is game changer. I learned this from AJ and Smart. They're a great facilitation training company. What they talk about is doing a bit of a recap on your agenda. Now, what this is you go through each item of the agenda and ask people, what was the highlight of it? So now you're actually chipping away at that recency bias and you're actually getting people to think about the entire day. What was the highlight for each of those sort of topics? What was their key takeaway during that discussion? Now, it does sound a little bit weird, but believe me, this is absolutely game changing. You might find people a little bit quiet when you first start out doing this, because I can tell you, no one does. So this is going to be a first time people have been through this, but they love it. And you get this really great closeout discussion at the end of the day. What you want to do at that point is then show the pictures that you took earlier. Again, if you're in a room in person, get photos of the room. You've probably got post-it notes and all sorts of stuff all over the walls now. People can look at the photos from the start of the day and look at it at the end of the day. Or if you're in a Miro type situation where it's a virtual whiteboard, just get a screenshot of the Miro board as it was at the start and then share it with everyone as it looks now. And they can see all the great work that they've done. This means that they're going to absolutely love you as a facilitator. If you do this as a job, they're definitely going to hire you to facilitate workshops in the future, and they're just going to have a great time. And most importantly, they're going to get the outcomes that they came to achieve, because you're not just walking away from this going, well, that was fine. You're actually walking away with energy, engagement, a clear set of actions, reflection on how great the day was. So they're going to want to take it forward. This is how you have the most impact as a facilitator. I'd love to know in the comments which of these techniques were most useful to you. If you do want to learn a little bit more about objectives and key results setting, I'm going to include some of the training down there that you can get for free. And if you do have any questions along the way, we have an OKR community where we use goal setting and facilitation techniques to improve your team's success and execution. So check that out in the description below. Otherwise, have an amazing day.